welcome guys to another episode of Liquidity in the Markets. I'm your host, Syed Hussein, and joining me today is a good friend of mine, Roman Gambourg from Gambourg Read, and he is also the founder of Counsel on Demand. So, Roman, thank you very much for joining. And I gotta say, man, the beard is looking great.
Syed, thank you very much for inviting. And I gotta say, yours look a little bit better.
It's the effect of it's the COVID-19 effect, man. I think just about everyone who I'm speaking with is growing out their beards, and believe it or not, it's the beard effect has been so great that even Jitin, our co-founder and CTO, Jitin Jain, even he's growing out his beard. So to me, that tells me that we're living in an ever-changing world for sure. So it's the change is hitting very close to home now.
I mean, growing out your beard saves you money on shaving cream, and the blades. So that's good in that respect too. Because it's right now is not the time to spend, but right now it's time to watch every
conservation for sure.
Yeah, conservation is very important. Conservation and expansion. But yeah, expansion is very important as well. So I recommend always, like all the startups, preserve the capital, but look for expansion, because right now, Syed, it may be time to expand in digital world, and that's where we're going.
I love it, man. I love it. I agree completely. So speaking of the startup world, just given who you and your team are constantly dealing with, are startups, and specifically startups within the digital realm and within the fintech space. How are you seeing today's market, the effect of that, the effect of the market today on these startups?
Well, the effect of the COVID-19 on the digital market space is tremendous, because back in the boom, when there was so many disbelievers that the government and the bankers and the whole system was against the crypto. They hated it, and they saw it as a threat. But they tried to take it under control. There's regulations, and then they killed it, and they literally stopped the market. And but what I'm seeing right now is that everybody's starting to look at the digital world. Okay, we have to put everything in the cloud. Everything has to be virtual. Everything digitized. Everything. Where are these guys now? So it's twofold for the startups right now, because the weak are falling, but the strong expanding. And that's, I think, maybe I'm running too far. Maybe it's 2 weeks out, but I think that's what I see happening in the startup world, because I'm seeing very weak signals from some CEOs, and then others are so bullish because they believe in their company, they believe in the digital space, and they believe they can get some money. They really want to sell equity, but I stopped them. Like, don't wait. Let's look at the bridge loans first. Maybe it's short term. So that's where we are in that space.
And that's interesting that you say that, because first of all, I agree with you 100% in terms of it's all about the mindset, right? And especially in today's time. I mean, generally, it's you got to have a strong mindset, but especially in difficult times, you need to have an even stronger mindset. This is not the time to cower up. This is certainly not the time where you can wait for something to happen to you. You have to take the initiative. You have to be at the forefront. You have to do it. So I agree with you completely. And what's also interesting in what you just said was the fact that your recommendation right now is to go more towards looking for the debt route versus the equity route, which actually makes quite a bit of sense, because on the last on one of our actually on our initial podcast, I had Fazan Khan from Visory Capital on, and we were talking about within the VC world, where they're seeing this, and really it's a buying opportunity. It's a buying opportunity for quality companies where investors are looking at them. However, the reason why they see this as a buying opportunity is because valuations are down quite a bit. So this is an opportunity for people to pick up the pieces and come into, which means that as an as an entrepreneur, as on the other side of the table, right, on the issuing side of the table, you want to conserve as much equity as possible. So in this market, if you don't want to go down the equity route, certainly going down the debt route is probably something that could make more sense. Can you talk about some of the programs that are available? I know you yourself, within your own network, you have quite a vast network of people that are focusing on providing loans, whether it's in the form of bridge loans or mezzanine capital to startups. How are you seeing that space?
I mean, it's very simple. They base it off the revenue. They see if the company, you know, these companies specialize in certain fields. And, the ones that I'm working with, it's a fintech, it's prop tech, it's basically AR. What they're doing is they look at your revenue and they give you a loan, which is payable in installments, but you write your own phases of expansion, and they give you that much money, and then you pay on their money. So you take as much as you need, but there are parameters that they work with, and so they have to analyze each company obviously on base-to-base basis. But that's what they're doing. I think it's better to take the loan for now than take a new partner, because what people are looking for, they're looking for, a lot of VCs are looking for blood. Right now there's blood on the streets, literally. So there's got to be good deals, and that's what I was talking about. The weak-minded CEOs, because they're panicking. The teams want money, wives are crying, kids are crying, everything is bad. But can this CEO get his soldiers together and lead them to the promised land, so to speak? Can he do it? And that's what VCs are looking at. They're looking at because they know their CEOs. So they don't need to see face to face. They can just Zoom, because Zoom is great, and see where they are. And that's what they're doing. The obviously the ones that already invested, you can go to them as well for the money. But the new ones, they want discounts. So bridge loan is the way to go right now. Because it's volatile. The COVID-19 itself is volatile. We don't know when it's going to end, because it keeps going.
Right.
And we hear bad things from Africa. Russia's in denial. China probably lied to us. Maybe like 20 million died, because
Yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
client that what they do is they created a marketplace for phone numbers. So they worldwide, and they told me, like, hush, we saw 20 million new phone numbers in China just appear on the exchange. Where are these numbers coming from? I don't know. Maybe it's a speculation, but they definitely didn't tell us anything timely. China forgot to tell us how bad this is. And there's a number of mistakes that were made, especially stimulus package, which was rushed. It was based on, I guess, fear of riots. I don't know how else to put it, but it's banks that keep running out of money. You can't apply for it. Nothing works. It's very bad. It's very bad. The way they did it.
That's
So
actually that's an interesting point, right? Because you were talking about on the loan side earlier, and one of the questions that I was going to ask you was the loans that are out there, right? The private capital that's available right now. That's an opportunity, and that can be supplemented with or sorry, not supplemented, but that could be actually complemented with with what the government is already providing, the different programs. And you have some really interesting thoughts on how this whole process was executed, and what it is. Can you start off by talking a little bit, Roman, about the existing programs, right? The existing government related programs that are there, right? The PPP, the EIDL, all of those, plus some of the more private ones that we were talking about earlier, off air, that you and I were talking about, and also then just tie that in with your thoughts on how you think this thing has been executed, and where do you think the future of it is going to end up going? Because I know that just now, we've pretty much exhausted the first 350 billion that it was allocated out for, but now there's talks of replenishing it. Where do you think? How many more replenishments do you think you're going to see, and what are some of your thoughts on these?
That's very very interesting that you asked that. Well, basically, let me give a little background. There's stimulus package. There's SBA loans in it. There's payroll protection in it. There's private companies did initiatives. Verizon did an initiative. New York City said, okay, businesses in New York City will get money. And basically, the only thing that's first of all, I recommend highly everybody to apply. But I think everybody already who wanted to apply applied. Uh, and they're waiting. Most of them are waitlisted, like such as yourself. You're waitlisted. We ran out of money. We gotta up more money. We need more money. Where's more money coming? I mean, there should be more money, but that's a troubling subject in itself because of inflation and what can happen. They keep printing this money. But for now, New York City said specifically there is no money. Whoever applied, we have no money. Banks tapped out. They need to raise the ceiling, so they're doing all that stuff, and they're going to keep doing it. One of the issues that I have, why did they rush into this? Why? Because we see that nothing is working. Nothing makes sense here for those who need it most. That's what I see with the stimulus package. Then there's bridge loans. It's a separate discussion, but they're available. They're definitely available. They're out there. We can talk about it. I work with this company, Liquidity Capital, and that's what they do. One of the companies. So that's available. To answer your question, what the stimulus package is and what's happening right now. Second part of your question opener was that, okay, where is this all going? And I'll tell you, it's all going into virtual reality, digital space, and leaving us people to freely go places where we really enjoy going. But we can work from home. We can all work from home. We're showing that people can work from home and can be responsible and grow companies. And there's companies emerging that are fully virtual, and VCs are welcoming it because, hey, we make more money. You're home and you can actually run your company from home. You can manage your people through Zoom. You can do the Zoom meetings. People are listening to you. People are happy. They're not happy that they're staying home when they're not working. But that's another problem. That's a problem that we're going to deal with, and it's going to go away at some point. How long? I don't know. But for now, I think companies should do like a 3-month plan for funds, three, and keep going. Expansion can be 18 months and 36 months, obviously, but the financials, and that's how much money you take. You don't take everything. You don't need it. You don't need everything, because what we're learning as people, we only need to eat so much. We only need to have so much. They were pushing our brains like zombies into consumerism. Buy, eat. So you get fat, you buy more stuff that you don't need, and you die. Now it's different. Now everybody is understanding that no, we can actually eat what we need, and that's it. So that's changing the retail space, and everything's changing. It's interesting times. So
So speaking of change, where do you see? You had mentioned earlier you were talking about the digital side of things, right? So everything going digital and the value of digitization. From your perspective, where do you see the value of digitization, especially given some of the folks that are part of your client base and what you're seeing out there, and also it's one quick other piece to that is it's funny that when you talk about the government waking up to these things and finally starting to talk about it, where the concept of the digital dollar was actually introduced as a part of the original CARES bill. It didn't pass, sure, but the very fact that it was even mentioned in and of itself, that's quite significant. It took me and some of my colleagues by surprise. So before it was just being put under the rug, right? To say that, look, yeah, this stuff it's coming. But the very fact that now at the highest levels of government is being spoken about in the midst of a crisis, where are your thoughts on that?
I think what I think your company is positioned exactly where it's supposed to be. And I think we're going digital. I think there's discussion about that. I think going digital 100% for the world is how we're going to be saved, because there's no way of going back. The old is done, so now it's new, and it's all digital, it's all virtual. You know, I um I started playing Roblox with my daughter because I wanted to see like what, how did they make it, and it's a virtual interaction, immersive experience video game for 7, 8-year-old, 9-year-olds. And it's interesting because you can actually go to play, you can have a house there, you can hang out, you can trade. There's commerce there. So basically, if you have kids, you understand that they're online schooling right now. No kids are in school. So I started looking, what are online schools, because I never gave a thought that my daughter would go to online school. So I started looking around, and I couldn't find anything really good, because the way I would see it is it's a virtual campus where we can all hang out, where people can chat, interact, and they're in school and they log in and they can't log out. You logged in, and there's no mechanisms like all these schools. I looked at demos. You can kind of like hack it. So what do you think they're going to do? They're obviously going to learn because they're very smart. So we need these online schools which develop an immersive experience, which is basically that's where you go. That's your school. That's your virtual school. I think that's where we're going. We're going fully into digital space. Everything's going to be on blockchain. It's going to be all about crypto, and I was a big supporter back in the day, and part of the HODL gang. That crypto is crypto. Crypto is the way, and it got shut down for a number of reasons. But now everything's going to go back up and expand really fast, because in the technological world, it's literally a second to the next page.
So it's interesting. You mentioned you're part of the original when this thing was first starting to come up, and when this thing was first starting to come up, it was the wild west, right, where regulation was put on the back burner. People were just let's move ahead first, and we'll think about regulations second, if ever. Talk to me a little bit about where you're seeing the changes from when things got started, right, which was during the wild west days of the ICO world, to now with security token offerings or digital securities offerings, where now people are really embracing this and taking regulation as being part and parcel of the offering itself. I'd love to hear some of your past experience stories around that.
Right now, the big difference is that, first of all, we have regulations. Second of all, it's being embraced. It's being favored, because from a government perspective, how else are we going to fix this mess with digital securities? Perhaps you'll be able to somehow deal with all the foreclosures that will come in. For example, like, let's talk about real estate market. A lot of like marketplaces are popping up here and there, and that's going into digital world, and it's going to be digitized. The marketplace, that's the fastest and the cleanest way to clean up the mess that the real estate will be in. And the real estate obviously is where people live. We're talking about residential. That's where people were working before, because that's changing, and that's another part of the real estate mess. But digitizing the real estate, you can actually fix this problem. If you put every single home in the United States and a commercial building on a blockchain, you will have them all on one place, and all set of documents for everything. That would tremendously ease the process, and that's what people are going to realize. That's how we're going to clean it up, because right now, for example, New York City has 20 months off inventory. Do you know what the regular number of months should be for the economy to flow? 8, 6, 8. 6 is good. 8 is okay. 20 is not good, and we didn't even start. The defaults didn't even start, because right now businesses, basically the landlord is just taking deposits. By June, But July 4th, we're going to see real blood in the real estate market, because new developers offering 25 to 35% discounts in New York City right now. What do you think is going to happen? Notes are being sold at 60% discount because of the backlog. And that's just let's say 2008 was a real estate bubble. That was right. That was pop, the real estate. So let's just talk about real estate. That's just one component. Hospitality, the next component. We're going into very deep recession, which is going to be great for the digital world. To again, for the weak to fall and for the strong to expand.
It's that's interesting. Look, I mean, it's probably going to come across as sounding horrible for those who don't really understand it. But the reality is, look, man, there's you have to. The one thing about being an entrepreneur is you have to seek opportunities in every space. And the reality is, when there's in times of crisis, is when you see a lot of breakups. You see a lot of death meaning in the business world, right? Not necessarily
corporate death.
Human death, right? Corporate death.
Good corporate divorce, corporate death.
Corporate divorces, corporate deaths. You see that,
of course.
But that paves the way for corporate births, and these are the next generation of corporations, of organizations that are coming about. And this is what innovation is all about. That's what the innovative life cycle is. It's interesting. You were talking about specifically on the real estate side, and digitization. Where are you compare that to? I want you to spend some time and just talk a little bit about how, if we go back to the last recession, the '08 crisis that we were in, with a lot very similar, right? Similar to what you were just alluding to, except a lot of that paper, right? A lot of the paper trail and the transactions that were being done, they were being done in an analogous manner, right? Manually, laborious processes that existed. Where do you see the value of digitization in that space, and how the existing traditional note holders, the guys that are holding onto the paper, if they were to actually digitize that process, how do you see how do you see the benefit that they're going to have, and B, are you seeing already interest and appetite for that now for the ones that are forward thinking?
It's very interesting that you asked that. Actually, one of my clients is currently working, and you know them because we had these conversations that they have the brick and mortar, they have the notes, and they want to put them on a tokenize them, and then fractionalize and sell it off to funds. That's what they want to do, but they didn't have the actual technology, and they came to Liquidity. So now there's a conversation there. Maybe there's going to be a JV or an expansion. It's still in conversation. But what they're doing is they are talking to all major banks and taking the notes and creating a marketplace for the notes, which is a great idea. And that's a great example of digitizing. And taking basically all the small players will be taken out by this marketplace. It will skyrocket and then plateau. That's what marketplaces do. But that's going to be a great investment. It's a great idea, and these guys know what they're doing in a brick and mortar space. And now, they're coming over to digital space, but they didn't know how to. And with the help of Liquidity Digital, that can happen for them, because right now you got to move fast, and whoever moves fast takes that space and rules forever. Because marketplace rules forever. It just takes the market, and that's what's going to happen in every single aspect of economy, where they're going to emerge and they're just going to take that space, and we as people are going to love it because it's going to be great for us, and the way of the old will fade, and we'll forget about it. So that's what's happening in digital space, and in the economy itself.
I think that was a great plug for Liquidity and some of the things that we're doing as well. Thank you for that. But that's really, I mean, that example of what, and unfortunately we can't discuss all the details of this, at least on on the podcast right now, but I would have loved to have gotten into more details. But for the audience, I mean, I think that's just that should give you an idea around this massive change that's coming about within the space, where you actually have these guys that are coming in. They hold on to traditional paper. I mean, they're as traditional as it gets, right? That kind of paper that's there, and they're talking to traditional institutes, and these conversations are already starting to take place. And remember, this is a very, very small drop in the bucket compared to what already exists, and then B, for what's to come. Because if you can now start to, like you were saying, right, it all ties in together, Roman. You were talking about the markets where now you're starting to have more and more private players emerge that are looking to give out loans. That combined with what's going to be happening on the real estate side, right? Given, I agree with you. I think we are going to enter into a deeper recession, at least temporarily. We will be. The time scale and whatnot, we can argue and debate about, but the reality is that it is inevitable that we are heading towards that. That there's clear indicators for that. Question is, how do we position for that? Now, in positioning for that, there's going to have a trickle down effect. That trickle down effect is going to be on the real estate side. So I know the real estate side is all these notes that these guys are sitting on top of all this paper that's there. So if that process could be digitized, and that could then in essence be tokenized, you're talking about opportunities across the board for the existing traditional institutional players, as well as the emerging players that would be interested in these digital securities that would come about with it.
Well, also, I would definitely, from the legal side, I would add that I would love to see a platform that works together with a law firm, where the whole process of the foreclosure and all that stuff is digitized. You see everything that's going on, every document is there. It's completely managed and transparent to the marketplace as well, and everything is connected. Obviously, certain disclosures are made and all that stuff, disclaimers, but you see the whole process. You know exactly the date you're going to take it back. That, because right now a lot of the notes, the way they're being sold is it's cat in the bag. You take a note and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what the property is. There's a lot of stuff unknowns, so that can be transparent as well, and opened up to the investment strategy.
And it's interesting if you talk about the whether it's the foreclosure process, or whether it's even the origination process, right? I mean, let's start off on this side versus that side, right? But on both of them, it's a very structured process, right? Everything's been predefined, and there's a lot of legalities that are involved. But everything is very procedural, right? You know that if this happens, then this is going to take place, and then if this takes place, then let's make sure all these checks and balances are in place. Then we move on to the next step of that, and really this automation of these processes. Right now, you have all these intermediaries that are in the middle of it, and if you could tie in, and then the biggest concern around that is the legality. So what you're going to start to see is you are going to start to see more and more forward-thinking law firms starting to come about and embedding their own version of these smart contracts as a part of that solution. And now what you start to have is you have a streamlined, a seamless and a streamlined process for that people are starting to just pick and choose. And actually, we're at Liquidity, we're working on something very, very interesting around that whole sort of a use case, to be able to provide these plug and play services for law firms, and you're intimately involved in that. We should I think once we can actually talk about it, I think we should do a separate podcast and going through the intricacies of that as well. But to come back to your point earlier on the whole foreclosure process, and as well as on the origination side, look, I mean, this is one of those things where digital securities provide immense value, and again, practical value, right? Long gone are the days when we were just talking about pie in the sky bullshit, and it's more about, okay, how can this actually be implemented, and not just qualitatively, right? But more importantly, quantitatively. What does it spell for us in terms of cost savings? What does it spell for us in terms of getting faster, better, cheaper, right? And execution ultimately. And I think that's where we're starting to now get more and more towards, and you're starting to see people embracing that. uh, across institutions, and that's the kind of stuff that gets me super excited, especially when I can talk to someone who's who's dealing with that on the other side of the table, and has been, it's all about, they're seeing the value of digitization.
Syed, it's almost like, I don't want to say those words, but like, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. They didn't listen. They didn't listen. They didn't listen. Now this had, this COVID-19, which is a horrible, times for people, but the bad is bringing the good, and we are moving into digital space. We are embracing it, and it's getting a stamp of approval from the government by at least mentioning it. So that's great. It's good times for digital.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, good times,
yeah.
good times indeed. And again, that's not to downplay the what all the insanity that's happening across the world, of course. But what we can't do is that, even we use that and allow this thing to push us back. And that's really been my biggest frustration right now, is when you take a look at the media, how everyone's just talking about negativity. And it's a domino effect, man. The more and more you talk about negativity, the more people are going to feel negative, and as a result of that, there's going to be negative effects for that. What you need is, you need to be able to see the silver lines behind all these things. And this isn't the first time the world has faced a global pandemic. We've faced things that have been far greater in terms of death toll, in terms of just the it's spread across the world. We've been there, and we've always come out better as a result of it, right? The last crisis that we had, we've come out better as a result of it. The one that we had before that, again, better as a result of it. So there is a pattern, and that pattern is that out of all these trials and tribulations, we as a society, we tend to get better and better and better. And I see no different. I see this one as being no different to that, and I'm very, very excited. Right? Again, clearly we need to take this thing seriously, because it is something serious. But for folks that are sitting on our side of the table, that are viewing, that have our own responsibilities to deal with, we need to continue to push the world towards a better, in whatever capability that we can. And to your point, I think digitization is absolutely that next frontier, and we're starting to realize it. It's no longer talk anymore. Now it's something which people are seeing the value of, and I think this really is confirmation in terms of what, like you said, right? Told you so, and now we're living it.
Absolutely, Syed, I agree. And I anticipate 0 to 100 in digital world really quick, because everybody's down and the space is open. Whoever grabs it, it's yours. And that's what's happening. That's what's
awesome,
happening.
Man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, Roman. On that note, this is I'm looking at the time here. I think we're just about getting closer to our mark over here. This was fantastic. Again, Roman, thank you very much for coming on board, man. And we're looking forward to having you on again, and we'll continue. We'll have some deeper discussions around this stuff.
Syed, thank you. Always a pleasure. Keep that beard going.
It will. It's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger,
nice,
my man.
All right,
brother. All right. Awesome. Good stuff. Well, thank you guys for joining. Roman, before you head out, is there anywhere people can follow you? Your Twitter, LinkedIn?
You can just go to our website. It's www.counselonstandby.com.
Awesome. All right,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
Thank you very much. All right, Roman. Thanks, buddy.
All right, bye.
All right.